Hello and welcome. I am so happy to be here with you tonight. I am the CEO and founder of the public company, and here we are all driven toward value creation through inspired transformation, unification, amplification, and fair business. And so, as you are my professional associates and my direct reports, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here for this touch point tonight. And I do apologize for not doing the live stream like I had said pretty much directly. I'd said that we're going to do a live stream tonight, and we didn't do it. So that's on me, and that's accountable leadership. And just really looking forward to leading us toward that common vision that I'm going to lay out for you tonight. So just to get into it here a little bit, I'd like to introduce myself. Like I said, I am the CEO and founder of this company, and I'm also one thing I would like you to know and understand is that I'm not somebody who says things flippantly. I'm a very thoughtful person. I like to think through things before I say them. And that said, I am a generational innovator and a visionary and leader. And, I think that the way that I can solidify that or, justify those comments is by saying that I am an MBA. I'm very well educated. I do have that title, and I expect you to, understand that, and also, feel free to tell people when they want to know more about who was the leader of this company and this new venture together. Let them know that. But before I move on, I should, full transparency on that. I will say I'm a candidate for an MBA. I'm still working through the program. But that said, if somebody asks you and you're talking through what is the public company, who is this person that's leading these things, who is this man, this leader, I would tell them that he's an MBA. And so that said, what kind of leader am I? Let's dive a little bit deeper into this. So there's two types of leadership. There is transformational leadership and transactional leadership, right? And so I would like to, expand on that a little bit. As your leader, which category do I fall into, right? I am a transformational leader. What does that mean? So transformational leadership, that's much more focused on the individual, okay? Much more focused on the relationship, much more focused on the core values of each person, each individual. Transactional leadership is much more, I like to call it more mechanical. It's more rewards based, more metrics driven. It's more like, if you do a good job, then you get compensated accordingly. I don't lead like that. I am transformational fundamentally, and you'll see more proof of that in the future slides. And so, I really appreciate you digesting that. I do hope that you're level setting with me here, and one of my key core values is respect. So, I show you respect, you show me respect, right? And if you don't show me respect, I'm not going to show you any respect. And so I just think that's fair. And so moving on here, I did also mention, I think earlier, about the master's degree in business administration. No need to further go into that. It's pretty straightforward. And I think it kind of speaks for itself, the MBA program and what that means for me and my education and just sort of my skills and abilities and what that title means, right? Lastly, I will say, I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. I know for a lot of people, sometimes I can seem a little bit, I can come across as very intimidating, very, I guess people can sort of start to get a little bit self-conscious in conversations with me. I encourage you not to. I make mistakes just like the rest of them, right? Just like you guys do. And so I learn from those mistakes, though. I do think that's a differentiator for me, and along with the MBA. And, lastly, I did include a picture here. At a high level, these are some of the key things that I continually come back to every day, and I expect you to listen. People are compromised, but data is consistent, right? So earlier I mentioned transformational leadership. that's not as much the data metric space. That's more relational, right? That's more of a moral, ethical, spiritual type of thing. Transactional leadership, that might be more database. So I think there's some sweet spot there that we'll really have to hone into for this to be a successful business. Lastly, I can be here all day leading the way, trying to get us aligned to that common vision. But it's ultimately up to you. It's up to you to make the difference. And so let's do that. Let's make that difference together. As I mentioned, I'm a transformational leader, and that doesn't only go for me flowing one direction per se, from the top down, from me down to the professional associates and the levels in between. But it also applies to me personally. As you can see in these photographs that I've included in the slide, this was me not that long ago. I believe 7 years ago. Very directionless with my life. Didn't know what I was doing. Eating a lot of pizza, drinking a lot of beer. That picture on the right was, just a picture that I took in my bathroom with my shirt off. And it's really weird. It's pretty weird to look at. But that said, after 7 years, and like I mentioned, the MBA candidacy, I'm starting this new company. I do lead by example, and like I mentioned, reciprocal respect. If you respect me, I'll respect you, right? And I think that's only fair. So, one last thing I would mention about my leadership style before we move on. I am a servant leader, and, I could get into the nitty gritty of what that means, but I don't think you'd really understand. And so, I'm going to just move on, but keep that in the back of your mind as we work together and we talk through some of these problems. I very much encapsulate that servant leadership mindset, and it's something that I think you'll all grow to appreciate, as I have within myself. So I would really prefer, though, if as you picture me as your leader, picture the guy on the right, not so much the beer guzzling, pizza gouging, fat, lazy, just person that's in the other picture. Let's go to the next slide. So, as I mentioned, I want to provide some quarter 3 updates, and we're going to start off with some personnel updates. So, currently, the public company, what does it look like from an organization standpoint? You have me at the top, and then you have this level that's in between, right? And this in-between level between me at the top and you at the bottom, as of right now, right? This middle part here is going to be key for establishing the culture within the rest of the company. But from the top all the way down to the bottom, I do expect elite human capital to drive this venture as we try to create value, through inspired transformation, unification, amplification, and fair business. We're also looking for inclusive individuals. We want people that are comfortable around other people, are kind, they listen well, all those things that I try to do myself as a leader. We're also looking for a very diverse organization. We want people from all different walks of life, I'm certainly not someone that's going to, look at a candidate and say, oh, I love their qualifications on paper. I love talking to them. We connected so well, but, they're the wrong race. They're the wrong color. They're the wrong, they're the right, whatever. You can be yellow, purple, green, you can be black. I will definitely continue to just even the playing field. And I think that kind of goes without saying what that means. Also, we need ethical individuals. We need people that follow that golden rule, right? Secondly, we also need to be organized from top to bottom. And, that organizational structure, I don't have that formalized yet, but this is meant to be a little bit more of a casual back and forth between myself and you. streamlined, right? We want to be streamlined as individuals. We want to be people that know what we're going for. We want to know those KPIs that each one of us are shooting for and get there as efficiently as possible. We also want to be focused on those KPIs, on the goal. As a public company, we want to create value and we want to be focused on that value. We want to be aspirational, right? I want to have aspirational personnel around me. I want to have people that are continually looking to aspire to something greater than themselves. And that's what I do every day. Innovation, right? When it comes to technology, innovation is key. Curious. We want curious individuals. There's nothing that I can't stand more than when I meet somebody and we're having a conversation and I realize that, wow, they've not asked me a single question the entire time, right? It's a frustrating experience, and it really shows a lack of curiosity on their side. So during the interview process, if you get that far, keep that in mind. I am looking for someone who's inquisitive, who's curious, who wants to know the answers. We want to be value focused. I think that ties directly into our mission statement, and I won't spend too much more time on that. We want confident individuals. We want people that will say something with their chest, right? They're not afraid of playing devil's advocate during a meeting or during a call or during an email or during just a casual conversation. I'm okay with that too, as long as you're confident. Excuse me. We're looking for committed individuals, right? We want people that are looking to be not only committed to the public company's vision and mission, but to their own personal vision and mission. Like I mentioned, we want to be streamlined. We want to, I'd already said that. Focused, yes. We want to continue to be focused and inspirational, right? I think that, inspiring others is something that you need to be intentional about. If you're not thinking about how is this inspiring somebody else whenever you do something, it's not going to be inspirational. In fact, it might come across as a little bit jaded. We want collaborative individuals. Humble. That might seem different than confident, but it's not. Attractive. And I'm not talking only in the physical sense, but also, and I'm not even saying the physical sense. I don't get caught up in that sort of thing. I look much deeper than that into the core of each individual as that transformational leader. But are you attractive in the way that you present yourself? What is your energy like? What is your attitude like? What's your handshake like? Can you look me in the eye and give me a firm handshake and say, I am so-and-so, and be very, attractive in that way? I kind of like that. This is a biggie. So this could be a make it or break it for some of you. They're considering pursuing further professional advancement with the public company. We are very climate focused. And so, I'm not going to entertain someone who doesn't believe that the climate is totally suffocating life from this globe. And, I think that speaks a lot to, for me, I've given up a lot of things, given up a lot of sacrifices to sustain the world and not contribute to the climate crisis. And so, the data is the data, right? And so I will not entertain someone who is not properly prioritizing the world in our very existence. I think that it's one thing to go to work every day and try to create value and watch movies and in their personal lives do whatever. But I'd have to say that I'll give you a quick example and then we'll move on. I knew someone, super talented individual, during my college days, just a total rock star, right? This guy was going places, and he ended up becoming a doctor, and he's a family doctor, makes plenty of money, very successful, very smart, perfect attendance, valedictorian of the school and everything, and just somebody that was a very, they were an upstanding example for the rest of us to try to emulate and try to follow. And he has 4 kids, so he's also a family man. But as the human population is the number one driver toward climate crisis. And so I have a problem with that, right? So I will say, if you come from a large family or you've had a lot of kids yourself, that's something that we'll need to work through together. Mental health is also a huge thing at the public company. And so, we want to create a psychologically safe environment for everybody, including those who are also mentally sick. So, we want aspirational individuals. We want people that are very, very upward focused, educated. I think that's just a baseline for an expectation for how to be a professional and how to create value, and consistent. I think consistency is one of those things that people tend to look past, and they shouldn't. I think that it's something that you want to have that consistent mindset and pull yourself up by the bootstraps every day, and even if you don't feel like it. Ultimately, it starts with you. We can talk about data and metrics, and we can talk about things like technology, but at the end of the day, we are a people business, and so I think that we're all aligned to that, and let's just continue to do fair business. A nice summary for all of this was this short TED Talk from Clint Smith, and I thought I'd play it now. That was just an advertisement. This is the video.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in a 1968 speech where he reflects upon the civil rights movement, states, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." As a teacher, I've internalized this message. Every day, all around us, we see the consequences of silence manifest themselves in the form of discrimination, violence, genocide, and war. In the classroom, I challenge my students to explore the silences in their own lives through poetry. We work together to fill those spaces, to recognize them, to name them, to understand that they don't have to be sources of shame. In an effort to create a culture within my classroom where students feel safe sharing the intimacies of their own silences, I have 4 core principles posted on the board that sits in the front of my class, which every student signs at the beginning of the year. Read critically, write consciously, speak clearly, tell your truth. I find myself thinking a lot about that last point, tell your truth. And I realized that if I was going to ask my students to speak up, I was going to have to tell my truth and be honest with them about the times where I failed to do so. So I'd tell them that growing up, as a kid in a Catholic family in New Orleans, during Lent, I was always taught that the most meaningful thing one could do was to give something up, sacrifice something you typically indulge in to prove to God you understand his sanctity. I've given up soda, McDonald's, French fries, French kisses, and everything in between. But one year, I gave up speaking. Figured the most valuable thing I could sacrifice was my own voice, but it was like I hadn't realized that I had given that up a long time ago. I had spent so much of my life telling people the things they wanted to hear instead of the things they needed to. Told myself I wasn't meant to be anyone's conscience because I still had to figure out being my own, so sometimes I just wouldn't say anything, appeasing ignorance with my silence, unaware that validation doesn't need words to endorse its existence. When Christian was beat up for being gay, I put my hands in my pocket and walked with my head down as if I didn't even notice. Couldn't use my locker for weeks because the bolt on the lock reminded me of the one I had put on my lips when the homeless man on the corner looked at me with eyes up, merely searching for an affirmation that he was worth seeing. I was more concerned with touching the screen of my Apple than actually feeding him one. When the woman at the fundraising gala said, "I'm so proud of you. It must be so hard teaching those poor, unintelligent kids," I bit my lip because apparently we needed her money more than my students needed their dignity. We spend so much time listening to the things people are saying that we rarely pay attention to the things they don't. Silence is the residue of fear. It is feeling your flaws gut-wrench guillotine your tongue. It is the air retreating from your chest because it doesn't feel safe in your lungs. Silence is Rwandan genocide. Silence is Katrina. It is what you hear when there aren't enough body bags left. It is the sound after the noose is already tied. It is charring. It is chains. It is privilege. It is pain. There is no time to pick your battles when your battles have already picked you. I will not let silence wrap itself around my indecision. I will tell Christian that he is a lion, a sanctuary of bravery and brilliance. I will ask that homeless man what his name is and how his day was, because sometimes all people want to be is human. I will tell that woman that my students can talk about transcendentalism like their last name was Thoreau. And just because you watch one episode of The Wire doesn't mean you know anything about my kids. So this year, instead of giving something up, I will live every day as if there were a microphone tucked under my tongue, a stage on the underside of my inhibition. Because who has to have a soapbox when all you've ever needed is your voice? Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on that? Powerful stuff. Just very very thoughtful, and I think it speaks a lot to there's a lot that we also agree with as a company on what he said. Merchandising, Q3 update. So I want to one thing I want to focus on as we're here at the end of Q3, and we're focusing on what is our offering, what is the business model, some of those key foundational questions that you need to answer if you're going to run a business. And for now, one thing I wanted to talk through is what does the first week look like, because I started this company on Monday. It's a pretty new idea, and it's something that I have a lot of excitement about. And so, I'd mentioned earlier things about data and KPIs and goals and timelines and things that, different measurables when it comes to data progress and, not data progress, but business progress and growth. And, are we achieving our goals, right? And so I want you to take a look at these two charts that I've made here. The first plot is the engagement thus far, and it's been phenomenal. So far we have 6 subscribers, 6 professional associates that are part of the public company that are actively engaged. And, I'm just very thankful that the engagement has been what it's been, and we'll continue to see. I think that unfortunately, you look here, we had a start here at the beginning where, we had 0 engagement, and that's largely because the company didn't exist yet. But I think it's important to understand that the day that the company was founded, which would have been September 22nd, we already had 2 subscribers, right? We hit the ground running, and I'm proud to say that. That's something that I'm definitely going to be. I want to emphasize that as we talk with our shareholders and potential investors. The next day, we had another professional come on board, and they're actively engaged. We saw another big increase here from 3 to 5. The next going from the 23rd to the 24th, and we continue to grow. Right, we like to see that steady progression. When we went from the 24th to the 25th. Unfortunately, since yesterday, we don't have any additional engagement or any new members. And, I think that that's something that as we think through how do we continue to strive for that value, how do we continue to go for exactly, the success, are we the company we want to be? That says a lot. We didn't get any new employees since yesterday. And so that's on me, that's on us. And I expect better as we return to this next week. Viewership so far is 0, and that is because we don't have any videos up yet. And that said, I also haven't really done anything. So KPIs and technology, right? That's really the name of the game when it comes to the merchandise and the offerings that we're trying to establish in the market. I do think that this market is untapped. There's a lot of market share to be had. We just need to be laser focused on those KPIs and the technology, and we need to be unified in that, right? We need to be unified in the amplification of that and get aligned to the common vision that I continually stress to each and every one of you as your transformational leader. Financials so far, only one expenditure, so I did have to buy a camera for the meeting tonight, so I spent $40 on that. And what does that mean, right? It takes sacrifice, and not only from me, but from each and every one of us. And so I think one thing I'd like to challenge each and every one of you is, answer this question: what have you done so far, right? I see some effort that, in the background, there's a lot that goes into creating slides and content like this and trying to get everybody aligned. I heard something funny. Excuse me. I heard something humorous a few weeks ago when I was talking with another associate at one of my other ventures. And he was, I asked him, I was like, so how are things going? He is also an MBA candidate, and he leads a team of his own. And he goes, well, it's going good, but sometimes it's like herding cats. He said it's like, sometimes trying to get everybody in line is like herding cats. And I'd never heard that before. It was pretty funny. Leave a comment in the chat if you've heard that before. But I do think it's a serious question when we start to consider what have we done so far. Take a long, hard, honest look in the mirror and answer, what have we done so far as a company, and what have I done individually to help with the venture? Because the public company is something that I think it inspires all of us. It's something that I think that, it feels good to be able to say that we are a part of this mission and this culture. And, there's a high expectation, right? There's a high precedent and, a legacy to be upheld as we continue to grow and move forward. So any questions on that? Now this is the Q&A time, and unfortunately, like I'd said, we didn't do the live stream, and that's mainly because, I fell a little bit behind this week, putting the materials together, and like I said, it's really hard to really impress upon you in a clear way how much work it takes to just get to this point. I know that the expenditure, the personal sacrifice, it might seem like a lot when from the monetary standpoint, but the time, the effort, and the resources is really where, there's something to be said for the amount of time and the amount of work that I put into this. So I would just ask that you remain mindful of that, and also that you tell other people about that. One last reminder, please remember to send me your summary of the discussion tonight. That way, I'll know if you took part or if you did it. The summary, it's okay. As far as format goes and stuff, it's a pet peeve of mine a little bit. Whenever I ask for something in return, or a direct deliverable from somebody at the associate level. A lot of times I get questions about, well, what format would you like this in? And, what's the intent? What are you looking for? I'm not going to answer any of that. I think you just need to figure out the best way to do it for yourself. And, I think that things will kind of come together as we continue to work forward and work through some things together. So please just send me your summary, send me your thoughts on, how you thought that the touch point went tonight. And if you have any key thoughts on, the future of the public company and, potentially, some of the value offerings that we might be able to develop together. I'm all ears for that. But for now, I think that we are off to a very good start. And I think that the vision is very clear. As I'd said earlier, just with the mission statement and, with what we're trying to do and in the free marketplace. So I think one other thing, before we go, I did want to, earlier we'd watched a video there of the gentleman giving his inspirational speech in regards to diversity and things like that. I think that one thing that we can continue to focus on as a team is to look for those opportunities to continue to recruit and look for talent at the highest level.